Behind the Curve is a documentary about people who believe that the Earth is flat. Thanks to the internet, it's a lot easier for people inclined to believe all kinds of wacky things to find like-minded people willing to reinforce those beliefs. But why a flat Earth? Why do people believe this? When it comes to all conspiracy theories, I think people like to feel like they are special. They like to feel like they have some special information that makes them wiser or more knowledgeable than everyone else. Then they seek to get some clout among fellow believers, and they become entrenched in a movement to a degree that they would be giving up a lot if they were to walk away from it. Thus, their reasoning becomes increasingly motivated and biased. I have no problem per se with people believing that the Earth is flat. The belief in and of itself is not something I consider to be harmful. The problem is the mindset that leads people to believe it. It seems to me to be a very spiteful mindset. A lot of flat earthers and conspiracy theorists seem to have this resentment toward the world. And I think that biases them into believing things that corroborate their attitude that most of the world is just ignorant sheeple, and that they are superior in their independence and critical thinking skills. It's clear that a lot of the folks who believe that the Earth is flat are religious. The religious folk who believe that the Earth is flat believe it because they think that's more consistent with what the Bible says. And they think that the idea that the world is spherical is propagated by shady anti-Christian forces who want to undermine people's faith in the Bible. However, it seems that not all flat earthers are religious. When it comes to these folks, it's actually harder to discern what exactly they think is the motivation for fooling people into thinking the world is a sphere. What could possibly be the motivation for fooling people into thinking that the world is not flat if it really is? There was this one dude in the movie, Nathan Thompson, who was doing these brain exercises, reciting states and elements while bouncing a golf ball off the end of a sledgehammer. He said that these exercises were part of a brain power program and that he had a brain coach. So presumably he was trying to increase his cognitive skills with these exercises. And it was his brain coach who told him to look into this flat earth stuff. He said that he thinks that the truth about the flat earth is being hidden by people who don't want people to know anything. They want people dumb, blind, deaf to the truth so they can inject you with their vaccines and their public schooling and their heliocentric model, which is basically forced sun worship. So this dude thinks that by hiding the fact that the Earth is flat, it somehow makes it easier to convince people to take vaccines. Also, they want to force us to worship the sun for some reason. And also, he thinks dinosaurs are fake. Mark Sargent, the focus of the movie, says, if you have 450 years of them showing you it's a globe, how much is it worth to them to keep it? It's worth everything. That, of course, is not how science works. Revolutionary discoveries are worth far more. If you want to make a big name for yourself in science, the most effective way to do that is to overturn a long-held belief. And they all see this as somehow facilitating vaccines and GMOs and trans rights. They all take this leap of moon logic that making people believe that the Earth is a sphere somehow makes it easier to get people to take vaccines, eat GMOs, and treat trans people with respect. And also the powers that be are doing human sacrifice and blood rituals, which has something to do with telling people that the Earth is round, somehow. Mark Sargent noted that there is a tendency among flat earthers to be competitive. He said that when you mix that with a little bit of conspiracy, a little bit of paranoia, people go off the freaking deep end. His example is a rival flat earther who calls himself Matt Powerland. Some folks asked Mark Sargent to interview Matt, and Matt said no, so those folks asked to interview Mark instead. Well, Matt apparently didn't like that Mark was getting more publicity and started telling everyone that Mark was in cahoots with the globalist government conspiracy. I suspect that this is a pretty predictable consequence of getting a bunch of people together who all think they're wiser than most of the world. They try to one-up the world, then they try to one-up each other. At this part in the documentary, a title card appeared that said, when asked to appear in the film, Matt stipulated that he receive $5,000, 12% of the profits, creative control, a guarantee that he be featured in 25 to 50% of the film, and that we support his unverified claim that Mark Sargent is secretly a Warner Brothers executive using an alias. So if you want to feel superior to the rest of the world by propagating conspiracy theories, what do you do if you want to feel superior to other conspiracy theorists? Well, obviously, you come up with conspiracy theories about them. And that's exactly what this Matt Powerland guy does. He accuses every flat earther he doesn't like of secretly working with the CIA or NASA. If any ladies in the flat earth movement become a target of this, people will start to speculate that they are secretly transgender. Flat earthers are frequently transphobic. One of the dangers of getting committed to a conspiracy theory is that it's easy to make conspiracy theories unfalsifiable. If there's a lack of evidence for your conspiracy theory, well, that's because that evidence was covered up. If there's contradictory evidence, well, that evidence was planted. The worst conspiracy theorists cannot make falsifiable predictions. When they try and their predictions are falsified by the evidence that even they themselves observe, they come up with some excuse for how they messed up their own investigation. And that's exactly what happens in this movie. They actually come up with a pretty good experiment to demonstrate that the Earth is not rotating, and another pretty good experiment to show that there is no curvature to the Earth. But when these experiments produce results that contradict their predictions, they twist themselves into knots trying to explain these results away. They consistently reject the results of their own experiments. When nothing, not even their own eyes, can convince them that they're wrong, it is of course very disingenuous of them to claim that they are rationally following the evidence. Mark Sargent admits that he is so invested in the flat earth movement that he couldn't leave it even if he wanted to. That's another danger of getting entrenched in this kind of thing. It's almost like joining a cult. Simply debunking the stuff that these folks come up with is not going to do much because they are so committed to believing in the face of anything you could show them or even anything they could find themselves. I think flat earthers have a problem that is a lot deeper than just having silly beliefs. They have a resentment of the world that produces a confirmation bias which makes them susceptible to these beliefs. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.